Well, hello there, stamping friends. This is Traci Raether from Plum Crazy Stamping, and it's Wednesday, June 11th, and time for our weekly card making lesson. As you are joining me, if you would please sign in with the comments and let me know who you are and where you're watching from. If you're on Facebook Live, the comments are readily available for you. And if you are on YouTube, please make sure you are signed into your Google account, which is the same as your YouTube account. And then you can use the comments to sign in there as well. And please also use those comments to ask any questions or leave me feedback on the project I'm going to share with you today. So this weekend, we'll all be celebrating fathers, whether they be our husbands and the fathers of our kids, our dads, and just other great fathers we know. So in case you don't have your Father's Day card made yet, I'm going to show you actually two designs today that would make that very easy for you to do before Sunday. And let's see, I'm also going to kind of go about this in the way that I do my crazy project design system from Plum Crazy Stamping that helps you think through card design. So I'll give you a replay of that in case you haven't seen it in a while or you've not been introduced to that. And then I have a number of announcements for you about things that are going on with Plum Crazy Stamping. So very happy to have you here today. I am going to go ahead and put the camera down here so that you can see my desktop. And we are going to take a peek just at the annual catalog. And as I said, I'm going to do a Father's Day card today. So when it comes to the crazy project design system for paper crafting, the first thing that you need to do is decide what's the C, right? What is the circumstance? What are you celebrating? What do you want to do your project about? And so, as I said, I know that I want to do Father's Day. And I want to say welcome to Sue and Donna. Glad you're here on the broadcast today. And I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've chosen to use for my Father's Day card. So that's, what are our resources, right? That's the next letter in the word crazy, which is the acronym I use for the system. And I am actually going to use Trusty Tools. Now, this is an Encore product. It has been out for one or two catalogs. Actually, this may be the third time around. And there is a stamp set. There is a die set. And there was paper. I'm not sure if this is still in the online exclusives or not, but really fun paper, bright colors, and that's what I'm going to use. So here's just some of those papers, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that as we get started here. Okay, now, if you don't have this stamp set or this paper, no worries. And maybe your father that you're going to make this card for celebrate doesn't like tools. So pick anything that works for you when it comes to your resources. So what stamp sets do you have? Do you maybe have someone that enjoys sports? Then do you have sports stamps? Do you have someone that likes fishing or golfing, hunting, going to the cabin, going to the beach? Whatever their thing is, go through your stamps, go through your paper, go through even your dies and or embossing folders and find things that would fit for your card that you're making today, okay? So with that being said, the next thing is, all right, now we're going to talk about the art of it. And I'm first going to start out with color combinations. Now, I know some of you really like black and white cards. And I am going to share a very basic black and white card in case you don't have a lot of colors, a lot of colored cardstock, a lot of ink colors, a lot of designer series paper. I'm going to help you to make that. And we're going to do that in black and white, which is going to be very simple. So you can start out, as I'm talking about this, you could use just a black card base. I've decided I'm going to just change it up a little bit and use basic gray so I get a little contrast for the black and white that I'm going to be doing. And I'm also going to show you something that I've started doing, not necessarily when I'm on video with all of you, but what I've been doing on my own. And it's kind of like when I am designing the card front and the card inside, I just kind of set them next to each other here. Because remember, sometimes we purposefully leave the inside of our cards blank because we want to leave our options open, right? But if you want to not leave the inside blank and have it coordinated with the front, why not just set them side by side as you do your designing? Another tip for you is don't start gluing things down until you've completed your design, you've been able to kind of set everything up, and then you can be committed and actually use your adhesives and glue everything down. But by not doing it right away, you leave yourself opportunities to express your art that come to mind as you're doing the card. Because I know when I get started, I don't necessarily have the whole design in my mind. You know, it's one of those things that progresses as I begin putting this together. And you'll actually witness that today. I kind of have an idea of what I want to do, but it is not in stone. Or, as a paper crafter would say, it's not on the cardstock yet. So, all right. So what is it that I want to do with the black and white design that I'm working with today? I actually am going to use the Father's Day, Happy Father's Day stamp that is in the set that I happen to have. So any Father's Day greeting will work. And so I know that I want that. So I'm just going to get that stamping out of the way. Just going to use my Memento Tuxedo Black. And ink this up. And, you know, when I'm doing sentiments and or doing large images, I like bringing my ink to the stamp. I can see that I have good coverage, and that way when I'm stamping, no worries, right? So I'm just going to center this, hold it firmly in place. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Ellen. Nice to see you here today. All right. Now I have done some die cutting here so that I have something for a sentiment label, and I have a background to that. I'm not sure if I'm going to want it, but I'm leaving that as an option. So there is the beginning, right? Leave my ink right here. Set this off to the side. Okay, so then now you can ask yourself whether or not you have paper, and you know, you could use any of the paper. I'm going to use that on my second card, but I'm going to create my own background today. And so I'm going to take what is the card front. So this is just basic white. It's 4 inches by 5 1/4. And I am just going to start stamping, and I'm just going to use the different tools in this stamp set. And I'm just going to do some random stamping with my Tuxedo Black here. So let me just ink up a couple of these tool stamps. Got a whole bunch of them here. Okay, so I am just going to randomly stamp these on my card front of basic white. Some of these I may re-ink and let's see here, put on here more than once. I'm going to slide this up a little bit so you can see exactly what I'm doing. I am going off the sides so that the whole thing will look like a bit of designer series paper when I'm done. Okay. Oh, we've got some cool nuts and bolts here even. I'm going to wait and put those in between. I'm going to actually use my larger stamps first. And that's usually what I do when I'm doing some random background, is I will use the largest image first, then I go to the medium-sized images, and then I fill in with the small images. So just a little tip for when you're stamping away and creating your own designer series paper, right? Okay, let's just kind of, oh, I've got this little bug decide to come in through the screen. All right. Let's see, I think we need a handle for my wrench there. These tools remind me of my dad, my husband, and my husband's dad. Guys that liked tools and painting, and just brings happy thoughts. Okay, let's see. We'll get a little bit of this tape measure on the end there. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead with my nuts and bolts. Kind of turn it around so that none of them, we want to keep the random nature of what we're doing here. Okay, yeah, we need one right up here in the corner. There we go. Okay, we've got all of that out here. Now I want to do something a little bit different for the inside because I don't want it to look exactly the same. I'm actually going to take the inside and I'm going to create a mask so that I can do stamping around the edges. And I actually cut this out with the die. When I was looking for how I wanted to accent the cards, I went digging through my die cuts. And I found two that looked to me like, I guess, masculine. And I was looking for things that went with tools. So this is actually the everyday detail dies. Don't these kind of look like they belong in a workshop or on a toolbox? So I use those. That's going to be the second card. And then I found these rectangles. Now this one's called, let's see here, rectangle stitched framelets. So this is quite old, but once again, this seemed to me to be very masculine, and they're just kind of a stitched rectangle. And that's what I've cut this out with. Okay. Now this, I didn't practice this. I'm making this up as I go. But what I want to do is I am going to temporarily attach this to the, what will be the card insert. And I don't know if you knew it or not, but you can take, now I'm going to see if this works. If it doesn't, I've got a backup plan. But you can take some glue, and if you let this dry a little bit, then it will become repositionable. And what that means is that you'll be able to take it off of wherever you have put it and reposition or not leave it there. So I'm using it as a repositionable adhesive for my mask. And I wanted my silicone mat. And of course, you know what? I can't find it here because I want to just make sure this is drying enough to be just sticky and not permanent. Now I'm going to have glue on my finger. Let's see, I'll just try it off to the side here and pull it off a couple times. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to put it in place. And what I want to do on the inside of the card is I am going to stamp randomly, but I need a place to make sure that I can still write inside the card. So I didn't want to do the whole thing. Now, if you did want to make it look like the front of the card, you could stamp off or use a light gray, and then you can write on top of it. That's a choice. But what I'm going to do is go back, use the very same stamps I used before, and ink them all up in black. But I am just going to do a frame. Now, you could make this the front of your card too, and not the inside. But I'm just showing you actually different designs that you can do and different techniques so that you have choices. And you could be doing this in color. And since I am stamping this in Memento, I can also color these images in if I want to. So now I'm going to go back to random stamping on here. Oops. But let's see if I can get this a little bit better. Because now I've got a ridge on here. There, I had to be a little more careful so that I got the whole stamp on there. And these are photopolymer. So if you want to just even get a little more insurance about getting a good image, put it on your Pierce mat. And I don't want to be stamping on my Pierce mat. So let's see what I've got going on here. I'll put a little scrap paper under here so that as I go around the edges, I don't get the ink on my Pierce mat. If your ink is sitting on your stamp a while and you need to re-moisten it, you can always huff on it. And we've got that. Let's get our paintbrush on here. There is a little ridge around here, but I'm not going to worry about it. Get our hammer. Not trying to be a heavy breather or anything. All right. Pushing that in since I have the mask. And you know, if you use Post-it notes, they're a little thinner if you use masking paper, that you don't have to worry. This is cardstock, so there's a little ridge on here. And let's see, I've got the nuts and bolts here. And let's see, do I want the edges of any of these other things? Oops, sorry, you probably couldn't see me stamp that one. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So then what I'm going to do is just take off the repositionable adhesive. And so I didn't need another product. This is just loose and it comes off. And I've got this white area. Now, another thing you could do is you could have drawn around with a marker and make a frame. I just like that there's an area now for me to stamp in on the inside. And there's two ways I can proceed. Now, I can just flip this over. Oh, because I use the repositionable, I did actually cut out the same image. And to make this a little special inside, I can mount this on dimensionals so it pops up a little bit. And or you could just stamp right on the card insert. That's up to you, but I'm going to do this a little fancier. I am going to take my additional die cut that I have here. I'm going to take the inside sentiment and I'm going to just put that right at the top of my rectangle here. It says, "You're the most awesome." When I think about my dad, that's what I think. He was, unfortunately, he's not with me anymore, the most awesome. Great guy. Okay, so there's that. Now I'm going to go ahead and pop this up on some dimensionals. And why I like this trusty tool, my dad managed a farm and fleet. If you're in the Midwest, you probably know of farm and fleets and fleet farms. So, soup to nuts, agriculture, tools, plumbing, electrical, clothing, shoes, household goods, everything was in that store. But he loved tools and lawnmowers and all that kind of stuff. So I always kind of think of Tim the Toolman Taylor when I think of my dad. So this card is very much all about him. All right, so I'm going to just now kind of line up where I had my mask. And that's the inside. And once I put it against the dark gray, isn't that pretty? And I did decide that I was going to make this landscape. All right, so now I'm just going to finish this off by actually moving my tools out of the way, or I'll be wearing the ink on my arm like a new tattoo. All right, let's just go ahead, and I've already scored this, but boy, not very well. Let me get out my trimmer and score this a little bit better. Just scoring this at 4 1/4. This is just a regular card base size for a medium envelope. There, now hopefully that will work a little better. Well, hi, Cassie and Diane and Kathy. Kathy, I know, I wish I could make my dad a card too. Well, I think I'm going to look at this one and just think about him this weekend. All right. So now we've got our card. Let me go ahead and I'm going to glue down the card front. Just a little multi-purpose liquid adhesive here. Try to clean it off so it works. I left it open on my desktop the other night. And lo and behold, I could pull the dried glue off the top and it kept working. I was so glad because I only have one more glue, believe it or not. And I need to get some ordered. So I was glad that I could fix it. All right. Just going to frame this. This is just my regular card front and card insert size. I do think that I am going to layer this. So we'll put the sentiment on our sentiment label here. And then I am going to pop that up right off of the card front with some dimensionals. And so when I'm thinking about the crazy card design system, the Z is, the wow factor. What are you going to add that makes it extra special? And so, popping this up in the center and popping this up on the inside are my Z, my wow factor for this card. And then the last letter of crazy is Y, and that stands for you. So now that we've made this card together, and anytime you design a card on your own, think about, what did you learn? What did you create that you want to remember? Do you want to take a picture of the card you made and write little notes to yourself? Did you learn a new technique? Did you learn about masking like we did today, using dimensionals and making things 3D? How to make your own designer series paper and just stamp randomly on the back, on a piece of card front, and then put it on your card. And then lastly, do you want to add some bling? Do you want to add some dimensionals? So let's see here what colors I have here. If I had silver metal toolbox looking ones, those aren't the right color. And I don't want to use rhinestones. They're kind of girly. I mean, if all else fails, I guess I could do that. Oh, I've got some cool choices here. I've got cork. These are more of a gold. They're actually from Wildly Flowering. Nah, not going to use those. Let's see. I know I have matte black dots. Those would look good. I'm looking for some metallic ones. I know I have somewhere, but I don't know if I have them sitting with a project. So let's, I'm going to go ahead and use the matte black dots here. And I've got some different sizes. And I'll use my Take Your Pick tool. And just put 3 on here just to add dimension in another way. So another little wow. And kind of like to do them in a triangle. All right. So that's card number 1. So any questions or comments? Kelly, hello. I'm glad you liked the masking, Donna. And Deb, nice to see you. Thank you. And making our own DSP. Yep. Another fun thing to do. All right. So let's get at card 2. So I'm going to just set this off to the side right now. And I'm going to use the same stamp set. But this time I decided I'm going to introduce a little color. So I decided to go with copper clay. And I'm going to use designer series paper. So this is, once again, still the regular card base of 8.5 by 4 1/4. And I just folded here at 5.5. Okay. And we've got our regular card. I think I'm going to do this one landscape as well. And then I took 2 different pieces of the designer series paper. And so I'm going to use one like I would put, a basic card front on here. So let's go ahead and just add a little adhesive. And Kathy, thank you for loving this and sharing it. I really appreciate that. Helps me to get the word out and help more people learn a little bit about card design. And that's why I do what I do. So thank you so much. And we're just going to center this here. I'm glad you like the card, Kathy. Okay, now this one, I'm going to put on here that word cattywampus, a little crooked. It's intentional, just to add a little more interest. So I'm going to do that. So you know what? I'm going to keep this flat because how I choose to, just get glue on there. This will temporarily be attached to my desk front. Anyway, I'm going to give myself the opportunity to use tools at different heights for the front for a little interest. All right, so I'm going to kind of make that at an angle. There we go. Okay, so that's one way to use our designer series paper. So then as I showed you before, I decided that I was going to use this other die set. Doesn't this look kind of toolish? Is that a word? I think I would spell that Toolish. I don't think it's a word. Anyway, so I decided that I was going to use both parts though. So remember, as we're creating a card, if you want to make them kind of go together, I thought, wow, why not have that be the inside? And this is going to be the front. Now, I'm not going to commit to gluing this down yet because I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do. But one of the great pieces of paper that was in this set was all these tools. Now you can die cut them or you can fussy cut them. So sometimes when I'm watching TV, I'll sit down with a sheet like this, and if there aren't dies, I'll just hand fussy cut them out. And if there are dies, sometimes I'll use the dies, but more often I just fussy cut away, right? So what I did when I was doing my fussy cutting is I put them in two different bags, because one of the things I want to point out when you have designer series paper is see how some of these tools go off the edge? Don't throw that away. I cut partial ones on the edge because I use them in my design differently than I use the full tools, which are in the center. But I get every last image off of this sheet to use in my designs. So I have one that's the full designs. So we'll get some of these out here. Let's see. Got a whole bunch of them here. Just going to lay them out. And then I have these partial images. So let me take a couple of these out of here. And sometimes I will leave them attached like this because this is great on the inside of a card, and I didn't even have to have them all cut apart. You know, for example, that fits right there. Okay, so there is value in all of these. And I want to cover up those. So yeah, I think I'm going to actually line it up like that around that window. Boy, that works slick. Let's see what this other half does. I might not even use a whole bunch of them. Oh, although I got to tell you, I want to be able to write in here. So I'm going to do, see, I'm not committing yet. I'm not gluing because I actually, since this is a dark color inside of the card, I cut a smaller one that matches the dots so that I would have room to write my message inside there. So actually, you know what? I can back this all the way up and have room to write inside. All right, so we'll see. I have other individual little tools in here, but we'll see what we want to use. Okay. And going back to the front of this, you know, I've got all kinds of tools here. So I'm going to randomly, now, if I didn't have the designer series paper, the other thing I could do is stamp, color, and then fussy cut these to be able to place them, you know, on my card front. And do you know what? I think my Happy Father's Day is actually going to fit right on this saw. So I'm going to use that as my label. Let's double check here if this will work. You know what? It's going to fit perfectly on there. So I'm going to use my die cuts as my sentiment label. That's going to be one of my Z. in the crazy formula, right? It's going to make it pop because it's on the saw. It's the little things, guys. It's the little things. Now, how straight do I want this or crooked? You know what? I can get it on here straight away, so I'm going to stay with it straight. But the saw can go at an angle. Now, isn't that more interesting than just using a white piece of cardstock? Because I have to tell you, I had the white strip here just to use this. Boring. So, glad to mix it up a little bit. So I think that, remember, I am making this landscape, so I better go back and looking at it the way, but I am going to pop that up for sure. So kind of a busy card, but what a fun card, right? All right, so I'm going to commit and kind of disassemble these and then put them back together. So I know I want this saw blade to be on here. Kind of leave that in the background. I don't know if I want another tool kind of coming off the background. I like this blue in here, so I'm going to put that kind of underneath my final layer on here. So we've got this going like this. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and get this on here, and I am going to put that on straight, and I'm going to glue that flat because I want the little tools to be the star of the show. So I'm going to use dimensionals on a couple of those on the front. So really, this is just providing some white space on my card to make my greeting pop. So let's go ahead and put this kind of where I think it's going to end up. And now I'm going to continue to layer. Oh, you know what? I like this popping off a bit with the handle of the paintbrush. So let's do this. I'm going to leave the end of this paintbrush without adhesive so it can kind of overlap. But put this part there. Okay. And nice yellow. Kind of hits the complementary thing here, right? I'm going to glue this one down flat. It's on the same side. I don't want to have two of them in a row. So I'll put this over here. Everybody needs to have a tape measure. This is a good thing to pop up. Let's see here. Now this is one of the ones I'm going to use just a little piece of the edge of my mini dimensionals here to pop up the end of this tape. There we go. Oh, that's fun. All right. Let's see. Do we need a wrench or a pencil? That's the question. Maybe I need the wrench coming behind here. So let's just glue this down solid. And then I'm ready to pop up the sentiment. Hi, Betty. Glad you came on today. All right, let's kind of put that right across. All right, I'm going to go ahead and glue down the edges on here. Oops, I got to slide this so you can see what I'm doing here. There we go. So we've got just our edges. That'll work perfect on here. Slide those into place. And same on the other side. Now, if I would have thrown this away, I'd be very sad because this is making this very easy. Oh, I got a little glue on that part, but it's all right. Okay. Now, let me get this actually on the inside. When you use this method of trying to create your inside of your card, don't glue it on the outside. And let's make sure I've got this facing the right way. So I'm going to get this centered first. And I'm not going to press this down because there is glue on the back of this wrench. But let me get the glue on the inside part for people to write their little message, or for me to write my message, right? And I'm just going to center that. Get that screwdriver out of there. There we go. Now, if this were light colored cardstock, I wouldn't have to put this additional part in, but because it was dark, this helps put it together. So now you could add embellishments on here. I'm not going to do it because I think this is a busy card the way it is. But then look at how nice that is on the inside. You could write a little something here. You can write here. You could put, let me see if this will fit. You're the most awesome. It's not going to quite fit. I think this one, I'm just going to put, whatever I want to say on the inside. So let me kind of move these things aside and put the lid on my ink here so I can share some other great information with you. But these are the two cards. So any questions on the second card? And if you remember, our crazy acronym for our project design process is, what did you learn with this card? Move this over. So we had everything from using designer series paper on the card front, being able to add die cuts to give us some white space so that if you want to decorate with additional die cuts, they show up more than if they were on a solid designer series paper. That you may want to vary the height of your images to bring them into attention. So you can kind of see when you look at this sideways, some pop up, some are right close to the cardstock front. And then using the edges of your designer series paper, just keep them separate and use them to embellish around the edges of what you do. And if you need to, find another way to do another die cut so that you can write on what is dark cardstock and still have it easy to see. So Kathy, thank you. All right, so this was card number 2, and we'll go back. Here is card number 1. Using very similar, same stamp set, but different parts to what is in a suite. It isn't that nice. What you can do differently, and I'll just remind you, Stampin' Up! Has the buy one, get one 50% off for sweet products during the month of June. What a perfect opportunity to grow your collection and save some money. And if you do that this month and you spend at least $50 with Plum Crazy Stamping, I am offering and will send you in email a 4-card free tutorial on the Celebration Sips is the designer series paper and the suite used to make these cards. But you could use the card designs where it lays out how you can put the card together with any paper or stamp set or die cuts or designs that you have. But it helps you to not have to start from nothing when you are making your card designs. So the other thing that's happening that's pretty exciting. So next week, there's 3 things going on. So on Monday morning, I'm going to be doing a crop where we do mystery stamping. So it's 2 hours. We're together. I'll answer paper crafting questions and also share a mystery card. I read you clues, and then we all make our own cards and we share them with our own supplies. And then we have time together to work on our projects. Now, remember, that's Monday morning. On Tuesday evening, I'm going to be doing a class called Shadow Box Secrets, and it's easy steps to dimensional art. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So here is one thing. Actually, this was last year's Father's Day card for my husband, but I made it in the shadow box. And so it says, being a good dad starts with being a good man. And then I did this all about being at the beach and relaxing and water. My husband loves fishing. We love to go to Door County where we watch sailboats, hang out on the beach. There's all kinds of techniques that I used within this shadow box to create dimension and use my different stamping techniques and tools and paper and everything that I have. This was so fun to do. Well, this year I decided to do another one of those classes, and I'm going to feature sunrise sailing. So I'm going to use some of the things from Door County, some other beach-like things, but this is a new online exclusive that we have, and it has not only the stamp set, so this is one of those bundles you could get, suite that you could get at a discount, and it has the embossing folder called Sunrise Sailing, and this has sailboat, clouds, water, but what's really cool are there are dies that match, so you not only can emboss with this folder, you can cut out this huge sailboat, and you can cut out cards. If I get this off the tape, I have to get this on my vent cover. That's how I keep my magnetic dies. Anyway, when you put your cardstock in here, you also match the dies in here, and you can cut out this sailboat. So I can use this as a background in my shadow box, and then I can 3D pop up a sailboat. I have all these clouds. I have water. There are actually dies in here for more water. I can't wait to see how this is going to come together, you guys. This is one of those, can't wait to play with it. And by the time I do class next Tuesday, I'm also going to have a different pattern. When I say that, so the different shadow boxes I've made, I have patterns for how I cut the paper, and then how it all fits in a 8x8, 9x9, or 12x12 shadow box. So I'm going to be doing a new pattern by using this set and the things that I decide to put in the shadow box. Anyway, this is going to be 7 o'clock on Tuesday night, the live workshop. Don't worry if you can't make that. You'll be able to get it on the replay. And I have a special for this summer. I am going to actually roll back the price And the classes for June, July, and August are going to be only $19.95. That's $10 off the regular price and $5 off the early bird price. But anyway, $19.95. And if you decide you want to come to all 3 classes this summer, you can get all 3 of them for $50, which is getting 3 classes for the price of 2 at the early bird discount. So it's a great deal. But I'm hoping to inspire you to keep stamping even though it's summer. So please look on my Facebook page here. It's been in my weekly email. It's on my website, and sign up. So then the last thing I want to share with you is here's another example of a shadow box. Now this isn't in the box, but I made this one and shared all the techniques that I did doing this. But when I took this out, this fell on the carpet. This fell off. I'm like, I spent so much time making this, but I'll tell you what I learned. I used just a regular, and this is an older tape runner to adhere this, and that dried out and it fell apart. So if I would have this in a frame, I don't know if these would have fallen out and kind of went into the bottom of the frame, but very disappointing. So I think I've shared with you, and if not, I'll share right now that I really have discovered that it does make a difference what adhesive I use based on what kind of projects I'm making. I have had a lot of people ask me questions about adhesive. So I decided to do 2 things. One was I put together a guide, which I don't think I have sitting here right now, but I have a guide all about adhesives and what adhesives to use for which situations. And then I decided that we all need just some basic adhesives to use for the different things that we're making. So I created the ultimate adhesive bundle. And so I took the different kinds of things that we use for adhesive. Let me just show you what's in this kit. And I'm doing this for a major discount right now because of what a challenge it is for people. And I wanted to get this in your hands. So let me kind of, so this is the Notorious Tape Runner. Okay, this is Stamp and Seal Plus, which is stickier than even Stamp and Seal. So I've put this one in here, and I find this is the best for photos. I don't like to put glue on the back of my photos. You can, but it makes me a little uncomfortable. So I do use my tape runner for photos. All right, so this is in the kit. And then, of course, we can't do any of this without the multi-purpose liquid glue. At least that's what I think. It has 2 different tips here for different reasons, and I discussed that in the guide. We've got mini glue dots, which help attach maybe like buttons if we're using them as embellishments. This is great for putting ribbons on things. So you get a whole box of that. 2 different size Stampin' Dimensionals. Even today, you probably saw me using different sizes. I find that, yes, you can cut the large ones in half, but I like just having both sizes. So I've put that into this kit. And then tear and tape. This wasn't something that I discovered right away. It took me a little while. But what's great about this is it comes on this little circle, right? You pull it like this, put it down on the paper, and it tears right off. You don't need a scissors. And then I use my take your pick tool, and this is how I get the adhesive covering off of it to put on. And this is excellent. And I mean excellent for making shaker cards, boxes, and 3D projects. This is really strong and works great. So tear and tape is in the package. Then today when I was masking, so what I could have done is die cut right out of this masking paper. And then when you're done, this peels off of whatever you were using it on. So very convenient, and also a tool to use when you want to make something seem three-dimensional, but you're stamping flat. And I'll be using this in another demonstration, but I gave you a partial pack so you can get started and see if it's something that you like. And then whenever we're using adhesive, the silicone mat, which I lost somewhere here today. Anyway, it's probably on my other crafting table. But this is how you can use liquid glue and use it differently and not have it get sticky on your work surface. So that's in the kit. Then we've got adhesive sheets. And if you want to make your die cuts like a sticker, or you're using very thin words that you die cut and you want to be able to stick it then on your card without having to put glue on it, these are great. So I am providing a portion of a pack for you to see if you like adhesive sheets. And then for any stamper, when you use acrylic blocks and photopolymer stamps, you really need this pierce mat. Or if you're poking holes in things, this is great. It kind of is self-healing. So I decided to put this in as a bonus. That in itself is a $5 value. And then when we're stamping, two things. When your adhesive goes a little wonky on you, here's an adhesive eraser. It actually picks up the dried adhesive, and you won't even know that you had it gush out. That's another professional word, gushing. And then we have the sand eraser. So if a little ink's on the end of your block and you leave a mark on your card, you can just rub this on your cardstock, and it takes enough of the fibers off that literally that ink will disappear. So I've put that as another bonus in here. And oh, here's the packaging. I put it in, I recycle. But anyway, that value is $91 because it also includes the guide that I developed to help you know what to do with your adhesives, and all of the products. I'm giving you that at a discount. Plus, this includes the shipping. And when I went to ship the first 3 that I sold yesterday, shipping has gone up. So this is going to be very time limited because I actually had calculated shipping being less and the price went up. But anyway, right now, 20% off is $73. I have 7 more kits that I will sell at 20% discount. And then, you know, there will be times I may do a flash sale at 10% off, but otherwise the regular price will be $91. So just want to let you know about that. This also is on my business page. It is also on my website, www.plumcrazystamping.com. And I will also be putting it in the information about being able to rewatch this video. So lots of fun stuff going on with Plum Crazy Stamping. I'm so glad that you could join me today. And don't hesitate to reach out if there's anything I can help you with. If you have questions about paper crafting, if you would like to order some Stampin' Up! Products, and if you're interested in getting this glue bundle that's available now for a limited time, that would be awesome. But anyway, and then next Wednesday, we're going to actually do something on color theory, and I'm going to do some complementary colors and have that be our lesson for next week. So looking forward to seeing you then. Between now and then, I hope you get some time in your craft room, at your craft table, or your little craft corner, wherever it may be, and have some happy stamping, folks. I know it's what makes my day. I sure hope it makes yours too. So thanks again for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye, friends.